Well, hey there, everyone, and welcome to basically the equivalent of the after show of Digital Dissection that we're calling Side Stitches, where we just kind of take something or an idea from a show that we want to talk more about, but didn't quite get to or didn't talk about enough in the 1 hour of your day we already stole from you. So we're going to talk about it more now for 30 minutes to really elaborate on the thing that we just couldn't get enough of, but had to contain ourselves.
Yeah, by this point, we're a couple of drinks deep. We've let our hair down, pants are off, and it's just a fun time to expand on something that we go on a lot of tangents on this
Hmm.
show, and sometimes we rein ourselves in, majority of the time. But
At
every now and
least
again,
at
yeah,
least 3 out of 4 times you ran ourselves in.
yeah, within a minute, reasonably. So we'd like to give you just a little bit more content that's maybe not as intense, right?
Hmm.
This is more about the things that we just didn't have time for. And obviously, we kicked off this whole thing with an in-depth analysis of Ghostbusters. And you may have noticed in that episode, we do make a brief mention of us actually being Ghostbusters for
Yeah.
for a time.
Hmm. Which that is actually how Mark and I actually like became friends. It was through this Ghostbuster group, which what made that really hilarious that we talked about a little bit in the main episode is that Mark and I went to the same college, which you could say, well, but hey, it's a college. There are lots of kids there. We're not going to see each other. We hung out with the same people as each other, just apparently at separate times. They're
Went
like,
the same,
okay, well, you
yeah.
know what? Everyone has like a little friend overlap, not very big. We had the same favorite bathroom on campus.
Same favorite bathroom we had. I mean, at one point, I jokingly said, "You probably even knocked on the stall while I was in there, and we just didn't know who we
No
were."
idea. No idea
Um,
who we asked to spare a square one night.
yeah, I can't
Not a
spare
clue
one.
who it was. Hmm.
Well,
Had
and
the
then
had basically
yeah,
the same major as each other, so we were in the same building for a lot of classes with each other.
yeah, yeah, same building.
Hmm.
We went to the same bars. I mean, granted, at our college,
Yeah.
there's only like 10, but still, we went to the same bars.
Still, yeah.
Um, so it was just funny that deciding to dress up as Ghostbusters and travel across, the upper Midwest,
Hmm.
uh, that that would be the thing that brought us together.
Yes, the upper
Um,
Midwest side is
yeah,
what got us going.
for you Janos Poha fans out there. Um, hey, which by the way, at some point we are going
Hmm.
to dive into Ghostbusters 2 because I mean sequels, there's so many of them. I
Hmm.
mean, I know that sequels get a lot of hate, and so we'll earmark that one. Don't you
Yeah,
worry.
and that is one that does not deserve the hate that it got at all. And even then, I like to say, like, it didn't get hate during its time. It got hate in 2016 for a really stupid reason, I believe. But another
Yeah.
time, let's go back to us dressing up like Ghostbusters. Um, so if you aren't familiar with how the whole thing works, I mean, it's basically cosplay or what's the other costuming is basically the term that people came up with because they thought the cosplay kids were weird. So you could basically call it whatever you want. It's the same fucking thing.
I think
Um,
I think somebody said that cosplay actually meant that you were playing as a costumed person, and then a costumer just puts costumes on, which to me it's like Kleenex, right? Like Kleenex is
yeah.
a Kleenex. All right.
Hmm.
You could show me four different brands of Kleenex and it's Kleenex.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like despite the fact that Kleenex is the slang we've made because it's a successful form of tissue paper, but no, they're all Kleenex.
It's all
It's the
Kleenex.
same thing here. Not to
Yeah.
mention, what does that do for us? Because we put our names on our costumes.
Ooh, I guess it's kind of meta then because we're
Yeah,
playing
it's
ourselves,
very
aren't
meta.
we?
We were both cosplaying and costuming at the same time.
Jeez.
But yeah, so what would happen is it basically played off the joke in the original movie where it's the same scene where we've established no. Yeah, it is the same scene where we established like there's no way they're ever gonna pay back that loan. And then Ray's worried about it. Egon's actually calculated how much money they have to pay for the interest. And then Peter's going into the possibilities. And he
Hmm.
says, the franchising rights alone will make us rich beyond our wildest dreams. And so this idea of like making a Ghostbusters franchise where you live was kind of a fun like inside joke slash opportunity to dress up like Ghostbusters and go around and do stuff.
Yeah, and I think the craziest thing about this, before I even put on any of the outfits or built my own proton pack, any of that stuff, was just the sheer amount of like fan videos that were out there. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because you talked about all these different franchises, there's almost this underlying community of people that were like hardcore Ghostbusters fans from, I would say, going as far back as like the early 90s. There's a couple different online communities that came out of this, which I joined like the first one back in like 95, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would eventually go through different web hosts and would become what's known as gbfans.com now. And so there are some of these old school fans, quote unquote, that were a part of that community. Just like any fandom though, man, it gets toxic quick,
Oh,
you know?
of course it does. Yeah. There'll always
Oh,
be, and for every reason. Usually it's like, I don't know, sometimes it's like I'm a bigger fan than you are and I'm gonna prove it. And it's like the worst flipping way to do it. It's really annoying. It's like a lot of like sometimes it's like pissing contests over who has like the better stuff or who can prove they're the bigger fan. And it gets so old so freaking fast.
yeah, it's just completely unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And so like a lot of things, like at least with this, like it's a prop building community. So a lot of times it's I think with especially with Ghostbusters, it was whose stuff was closest to being screen accurate
oh yeah.
was a huge pissing contest in this community. And coming from someone who definitely built all of his first stuff for the sake of like going out on Halloween, I was so far removed from like screen accuracy or like not removed from it, but like so far away from it. Like my stuff, like for what I did with very limited resources in my basement, kind of like Tony Stark in a cave with scraps, I was proud of what I had done, but it was nowhere near what other people had been achieving, who were looking at like actual like schematics on the internet and getting resin parts and things that were like legitimately molded supposedly after the props from the movies themselves. And I'm
Oh yeah.
like, hey, this round thing from a popcorn can kind of looks like a proton pack, so I'm gonna take it off, paint it black, put some bicycle reflectors on it, and call it cyclotron. um
and and for those that have never will never see a photo of this thing, you know, I felt bad for Joe at first because I saw this thing and I'm like, you know what,
hmm
he built this, you know, it gets the job done. But
yeah.
it reminded me of like a knockoff toy that you would buy in like Tijuana, you know. you, you look at this thing and it's like
hmm
it reminds me of what is it called? Oh god, I knew I was going to forget it. Obvious Plant. That's what it called.
hmm
It's like the Obvious Plant toys, the guy who creates fake toys and just puts them in stores. It it kind of felt like that, but it was a
hmm
knockoff of Obvious Plant. Yeah.
Yep, it wasn't Hulk of the Avengers. It was Angry Green Man of the Revengers is the
Yeah.
proton pack that I had.
Yeah,
Um,
this wasn't a proton pack. This was like a port horn backpack or something,
mhm.
whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, I mean, um, so you actually were part of the Wisconsin franchise, like the founding members, right? Like you were there when the declaration was signed, right?
Basically, yeah, I was one of the first four members. We had basically met on GB fans, and the person who we refer to as like he's the big papa of the group. He's still there, and he contacted I think he started just like a thread, like a Wisconsin franchise thread. He's like, so there is no Wisconsin franchise left. So you want to get together and hang out? And it was I like said something like, yeah, like I'd be up for like forming like I'd be up for hanging out. And he's like, no, I'd like to actually form a franchise. Like I've been like also like looking at getting a logo made. So let's talk about like, hey, what logos do we have? What ideas do we have for logos? And it was me and the what we just call our big papa and two other people were like the first five um of the group. And I wasn't able to make it to the first event because I was a broke college kid and I had to wait tables on the weekends and I couldn't afford to miss I think it was like a busy season sort of thing. So like, hey guys, I can't come tonight, so I didn't get to go to the first event. But yeah, like I was one of the founding members of the Wisconsin Ghostbusters.
Nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, my journey would actually be I would end up becoming part of this franchise, but not for the same reasons. I actually was friends with someone who he was kind of known as like that Ghostbusters fan, around the southern part of the state,
Hmm.
and I mean he'd been a super fan for a very long time, and I'd actually known him since I moved up here to Wisconsin, and just through some like chance encounters with people I knew from work, and we go to the bars afterward. I met this guy, and then after becoming friends on Facebook, I noticed he had a full, Ghostbusters getup, and I was like, well, they
Ooh.
don't just sell those in stores. Like, how did you do this?
Hmm.
And so when I first met him, I asked him about it, and we had some discussion. He built his own pack, he made his own stuff, and so it kind of just went. Um, it just kind of went to the ether after that, and then when the Ghostbusters video game came out in 2009, I saw him in a photo with the game in the getup at GameStop, not a sponsor, and I was like, God, there's the getup again. I've got to see what's going on with that.
Hmm.
And so that's really when I started to begin my pack build process, and spent 9 months putting this thing together, making it out of all these pieces of wood and resin,
Hmm.
and making sure I was one of those pack accurate people. you know I wanted
Hmm.
I wanted it to look the part,
Yeah.
so I
Hmm.
absolutely, went hog wild on it. And yeah, and then all of a sudden, all my stuff's put together, and we're meeting up for events, and then I met Joe and several other people, and yeah, next thing you know, we're walking in St. Patty's Day parades.
Yeah, which was crazy enough to think of that was a thing. Like, which basically all I have to do to be a part of that parade is don't you just have to ask? I feel like that's all we had to do. Is like, hey, would you mind if we came up dressed like as Ghostbusters? And they're like, yeah, sure, why not?
I think you have to ask with a cash donation.
Okay,
I'm not 100% sure, but I thought there was like some kind of cover fee or something.
that's
I can't
fair.
remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but out of all that time spent, being a Ghostbuster, like the joke that you mentioned about the franchise thing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, like a lot of things, for me, hobbies only last as long as my interest in them
Yep.
persists, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's very few hobbies that I've actually had that I've kept my entire life. I mean, video gaming would be the only real thing, and maybe some card collecting. I like some very specific cards, but yeah, with this, it was just one of those things where, for one, I was a very large man back then. I mean, I was a I was a very, very large man. So if you can imagine, I've already got a sweating issue. Like I get warm in the winter, halfway up to my, in my waist in snow.
Hmm. I recall many cons where we would lose Mark and he was just standing under a well ventilated spot and he was like, no, 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 I'll catch up.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Don't worry. I'll find you later. Yeah. Because seriously, man, you're wearing a jumpsuit.
Hmm.
My pack was one of the heaviest ones, no matter where I went, because it was literally, it's like 50 or 60 pounds.
Easily. Hmm.
Yeah, like, so you're wearing that. It's just like a turtleneck, like you're slowly killing yourself throughout the course of a day. And so I would put this thing on, and immediately the the jumpsuit would change to a different shade, and it just wouldn't it wasn't fun for me anymore.
Hmm.
It's like, well, people are going to come by and want to take a picture of you, and then you see the picture on social media later, and it's like, wow,
That was it.
I don't look good there.
Oh no.
I
Hmm.
look horrible. I
I
I
look
look like
miserable. I don't want
yeah.
to be there, and you can tell.
I look like I'm a mob informant, and I am like literally a hostage. Like, I do not look good. And so,
Hmm.
like, obviously it's one of those things where you can't be like truly upset about the experience, right? Like,
No, no, no,
there's a lot
no.
of
Hmm.
fun times with it, and you met with these people enough to where kind of felt like your own small family after a
Hmm.
while. And hell, I mean, I invited all you guys to my wedding at one
That's
point,
true.
right?
Yep. I think there
So,
were a few group pictures.
yeah, it's like,
Just to go, like, I think there was a table of just Ghostbusters at your
yeah,
wedding, which was pretty great.
there was like a table of Ghostbusters, and then I think there was like two people from my wife's horse farm at the time.
Yeah, yeah, I remember them. Like, I think
Yeah,
I got to know them. I may have lied to them to make myself seem more interesting, which is very common in most like social scenarios with me. I kind of just I keep talking uncomfortably to make myself and everyone else laugh.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it was a great time.
Just getting the mood going, you know, getting the
Yeah.
good vibes flowing there, and yeah, I mean, there are some pretty cool things that you do while you're wearing the suit, though. I
hmm
mean, like the first time we did it, well, actually, no, you at the first St. Patty's Day parade? I can't remember if you were down in Chicago.
No, a lot of like the early Chicago stuff I missed because I went from being a broke college student to being a broke parochial school teacher. So I made less money teaching than I did waiting tables. And so like when you guys like went to see Dan Aykroyd and have your Crystal Skull vodka thing assigned like signed by him, like, nah, I got rent.
Yeah,
And I can't I really can't miss. I can't go. There's no long-term trips for me. So I
that
missed
was
St. Patty's
yeah.
Day, missed the Ackroyd meeting, but yeah.
The Ackroyd meeting was the very first thing I actually did with the larger group, but I didn't actually have anything built yet. So I still have the Crystal Head, vodka,
Oh
which
yeah.
is still sitting signed on my shelf over there, and I'll probably never drink it. But for like
hmm
for just those experiences, though, I mean, meeting Dan Aykroyd was kind of a childhood dream for me.
hmm
And I knew that the interaction was going to be quick. It was going to be pretty abrupt because he wears his shades in public on purpose.
hmm
Like is public facing a person as Dan Aykroyd is. He's not someone that wants to sit there and you know shaking hands and all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
I mean, either way, though, it was cool to meet him. I remember when I wasn't in the getup, um, I walked up there and I said, "Hey, I really appreciate you, coming out and visiting us." And I actually dropped this one bit of information about this UFO video that he filmed with an independent
hmm
filmmaker. Because I think I shared that with you because I watch it like
Oh
once
yeah,
a year.
I've seen it. It's the one like it basically opens with him like he's smoking a cigarette through through this
Yeah.
interview. It's
Oh,
very
yeah.
the very almost candid looking.
It's 2 hours
hmm
long. I'm sure they shot it in his living room at his house up in Canada, and he's smoking cigarettes for like a full 2 hours. Like it's just going. And so I mentioned that to him. I said, "Hey, I'm not going to talk to you about Ghostbusters, but I said I've watched your UFO video several times, and I said that was easily like it's one of the coolest things because I'm not going to say I didn't think you were intelligent, but he is really really smart. Like
Oh yeah.
he's crazy intelligent, and
hmm
so I'm not going to say that I believe in extraterrestrial life, but after watching that video, it's like I would say my confidence is shaken just a little bit because of how smart he sounds.
He's and the thing he's smart. He's definitely confident in his delivery of everything,
Yeah,
and I wonder if it's because like Dan Aykroyd seems to be, he's like a naturally passionate person.
yeah,
So I think like I don't know he'd make a fantastic salesman if he's never done that in his life. If he really
yeah.
believed in his product.
Well, I mean, you remember the Super Bassmatic 76? I
Who
mean, he
forgets the
sold.
Super Bassmatic 76?
It's just that simple, like he knows what he's doing. Um, yeah, I mean, there was some good and bad, right? Like
Oh
with
yeah.
that whole experience, because
hmm
one of the things that I'll mention is that um, while it's possible to treat everyone like a human being, you weren't meant to get along with every human being,
No.
right?
Mm-mm.
And so that was the only real drawback to some of those interactions because I mean, there was nothing worse than at the end of a long day where you've been walking miles
hmm
in these costumes and this
And
stuff.
literally miles, especially
Li-
like that's not exaggeration.
Yeah, literally miles.
hmm
And then somebody walks by and accidentally snags your proton pack and breaks
Oh my
something off of it.
God.
That would happen
Oh,
like once a trip.
yeah, it
I
would.
mean,
Like some drunk asshole would like take off and you're turning around like, oh, look, this is cool. Like, yeah, it was. Don't
yeah.
break that. Like, don't like what?
Yeah,
Oh,
don't
hmm
touch things that don't belong to you,
yeah.
sir.
hmm
you know,
Common courtesy,
yeah, I mean,
especially like by the time you make it to Proton Pack Mark III, because that's what I'm on right now. And Mark III looks very, very much closer to the movies than the Mark One did.
yeah, yeah, that
Hmm.
Mark One had some humble origins, didn't
Personality is what it had,
it?
and it had that in spades. But yeah, no, like it definitely is like there was so much fun and so much good that came out of like our experience being Ghostbusters. Like again, like going to like some of the conventions and a few of the things and a few of the experiences that we had because of it. Like um the fact that I got to throw out an opening pitch at a baseball game to me, even though I mean it was minor league. It was for the Timber Rattlers in Appleton. But still, like
Yeah.
that's something I'm a teacher. Like they're not inviting teachers to do opening pitches anywhere. So like the fact that I got that experience from the group um was just awesome. And then of course like camaraderie at certain events like those Nexus Game Fair events that we did,
Oh
those were
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, those are great, especially that Bridge Commander game we played where you're
Oh my god, that was such a good time.
like just to describe it to people. I mean,
Hmm.
this is it's literally an episode of Star Trek played before you with like computer monitors and one person's engineering, one person's
Hmm.
weapons. You know, there's the captain who's usually like the DM or whatever, the
Yeah.
GM. But I mean, that's like one of my top five memories is playing that game. I could have been like not even wearing a Ghostbuster outfit, and that would have been top five. But
Hmm.
that was really fun to play that.
Oh yes. It
Yeah.
just and then there are other times that you go to conventions and um I don't want to speak ill of anyone or put anyone down, but to those of you who do go to like cosplay conventions, if you're the ones who choose not to bathe for the whole weekend, what the actual fuck is wrong with you? You're staying at a hotel where they don't charge you more to use the shower. And last I checked, every hotel provides you with some basic form of soap.
Dude, the worst part about that was it didn't matter what walk of life,
No.
you always got hit in the nose with
Mm-hmm.
a pungent smell that was always more creative than the last
Oof.
convention that you went
It
to, you
was. And I
know?
just remember, I remember one great line that someone said, or someone like tried saying, like, oh yeah, man, it's just like the 3 day funk at a convention. And I was like, dude, this is day one.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what are you talking day three funk? Like, I'm not sticking around for day three if we actually label that and this is not labeled.
Speaking of someone who's absolutely versed in the 3 day funk was actor John Bernthal, Shane Walsh of The Walking Dead.
Hmm.
Uh, so this was at Chicago, and I was just walking on the floor. I was just kind of scoping out because I can't remember who it was that I met. I think it was it CM Punk? Is that the WWE wrestler from the back
Yeah,
of the day?
that sounds right. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
so I was trying to find out just where he was because one of our friends wanted to go get his autograph, take a photo, and I'm just chilling out, and all of a sudden I see a couple handlers, which is normal. You see
Hmm.
handlers all the time taking celebrities places, but
Yeah.
here comes John Bernthal, who is dressed like just like how he would be in an episode of Walking Dead. He's just got torn up pants and a shirt, and he's got like a he's got like a black cap on, and that guy, it doesn't matter what he's doing in life, he will
Hmm.
rub his head before he says something every time. Because if you watch The
Okay.
Walking Dead, he's rubbing his head the entire series. So he walks up and he rubs his head, even though he's got a hat on. He looks at me, and
Hmm.
he's like, man, that looks heavy. And I'm like, like, yeah, rock on, John Berthal. And then like he just disappears into a mist after that,
Oh
like
my
off to his booth.
gosh.
And that was my experience with John Bernthal, man.
Hmm.
That's the only exchange we had. Just, man, that thing looks heavy. I'm like, thanks, John.
Thank-
We'll see you later, bud. Yeah.
Like the only celebrity experience that I think I can even remotely think of like while like ghost busting anything was when we got to meet Ernie Hudson at Madison
Oh yes.
when it was the first Wizard World convention in Madison. And I just remember seeing Ernie Hudson for the first time. Like that dude is the most in shape dude I've ever seen in my life, especially for his age. Ernie
Yeah.
Hudson, legit ripped. It's like that guy is he's cut. Good
He
for
actually
him.
he actually kept a block of cheese on the table and he would just shred it on his abs as, as he's signing photos.
Could you imagine?
he, he was one of the best experiences I had with
Oh
celebrity though,
yeah.
because we get up there and usually they've got their managers with them or whatever. They're always
Mm-hmm.
like, here's your photo. You can get signed, then move over to the left, please.
Mm-hmm.
You walk up there and this dude's talking to you the entire time.
Yeah, the whole time. Just
Yeah.
chatting up like um his experience like with the movie, what he's doing now.
Yeah.
He's
We talked to him for
incredibly
like, it's like,
grateful for all of his fans too. Like Ernie
yeah.
Hudson is so flipping cool to meet anywhere. Or like if you get a chance to meet Ernie Hudson, like do it. He's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, he clearly was all about the fan engagement there because we
Mm-hmm.
got up there and we were all trying to figure out like, okay, we just want him to sign a photo. We want to take a photo with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't really have any specific packages that were there that said like, this is going to be the one you pick.
Yeah.
So we got up there and we're like, hey, Ernie, like, we just want to get a photo with you. I'll buy one of these signed photos if
Mm-hmm.
that's what it takes. Like, hey, just let us know whatever it is. And he's like, hey, just you got your ticket. Just come over here. We'll take a photo. It's no big
Yeah.
deal.
Mm-hmm.
And his manager's just like, hey, he just told you what we're doing. Like, I'm not
I'm
I'm
not
not
in
stepping.
control anymore.
No, no. So
Mm-hmm.
Ernie was just totally cool. We're sitting there talking to
Mm-hmm.
him about, yeah, like you mentioned, like what's next? Like, hey, like where you guys heading next? What do and I think I even asked him like, what he ate recently because he looked so tired. And I'm like, because he was worn out, like he was a little late getting
Mm-hmm.
there. And so I was just like, yeah, dude, man, I'll buy you something to eat, let's go just sit down and shoot the
Yeah.
shit. But he was easily one of the coolest celebrities
Mm-hmm.
that I've ever had a chance to meet. And I just remember at that same show where was the Green Ranger, Jason, was it
Oh, Jason David Frank.
Jason David Frank?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His booth, like I never actually went up and met this dude, but he is so engaged with his fans as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
he was like standing up on a table and he was like whipping a shirt around and there's like 40 people just
Mm-hmm.
like, all screaming at him. And I'm like, what the hell is this? You know, I had no idea. And
Mm-hmm.
and then like you go over and you see a guy like Ian Somerhalder who is just total chill.
Mm-hmm.
And he's sitting right next to Jason David Frank. And I'm like, man, I would hate to be him right now.
Yeah.
Like
Like
he's in Madison, he's in Wisconsin. He would never be here for any other reason. But he got the Jason David Frank, partnership booth. And it's like, God, I hate
oof.
this.
Yeah, you can't follow up that show.
No.
Yeah, Frank is just like it makes me think in Galaxy Quest when you see Tim Allen's character, Jason Nesbitt at a convention,
Yeah.
and he's eating it up. Like he is
Yeah.
loving every minute. The fans are into it, and it was just an incredible experience for both him and everyone involved, like around him. And that's what Jason David Frank was like.
Yeah.
He was totally in the moment, totally there with his fans, getting his fans involved. Just
Yeah.
another like awesome, like yeah, like I mean, also again, very big fan of that property when I was younger, and 2 degrees still am. If I had the money at that time, totally would have loved like hang out with Jason David Frank too.
Well, and
Um,
he's one of those guys like because I just associate wearing a Ghostbuster outfit with seeing him
mhm.
because every con you would go to, he would typically be there.
Oh yeah.
He's one of the
Hmm.
most popular Power Rangers of all time, so he's always there. The only other the only other person who's there as much is Lou Ferrigno. so like I
Hmm.
got one autograph from Lou Ferrigno, but this is like
Hmm.
this is long before I was a Ghostbuster.
Yeah,
But yeah, ultimately though that journey did need to come to an end. I mean,
it
it
did.
just it got to a point where like you just can't give up
Hmm.
your weekends to go do that kind of stuff anymore,
No,
and
no. And it was like it got to the point, like again, like I think we both just got to the point where like we were wondering what the plot was. Like we kind of felt like we were kind of rinsing and repeating with the stuff we were doing.
yeah,
Your whole weekend is ate up from it because we'd have to travel to go and do something. And then like you just feel exhausted. Like
yeah,
you're exhausted from the work week, and then you're not relaxed in the weekend anymore, and you're going into the next week still exhausted.
hmm,
So it just got to that point where it was definitely time to ride off into the sunset in a ecto that was definitely about to break down, as is the case of everyone who's ever built tried building a fan made ecto 1. They all have problems just like the real one.
Oh yeah, at some
Hmm.
point that thing's going to break down. But but hey, you know what? Either way, this was our first side stitch. We hope you guys enjoyed a little bit more context behind the stuff that we just didn't have time to talk about. When we first mentioned it. If you like this topic, we're going to do more of these as we progress. So if you have any ideas for other things you'd like to hear about, we're always open to them. But most likely, side stitches are going to stay either pretty close to the chest or maybe if the topic is interesting enough, we'll bring it in for some extra looks as we did today.